Okay, guys, good morning. One quick announcement, guys. If you have any issues during or doing the lab, please reach me out. Don't wait until the last minute. Okay? The due date was Monday. So if I receive email on Tuesday or whatever, then you said you have an issue with the lab, that's bad. That's not good. I mean, promising is starting. Especially in this class, we do have at least 11 labs. So it looks like every week we do have one lab. So if you wait until the last minute, so it's gonna be bad. Okay? Because I cannot give you more extension in order to finish the lab. So please start early. And again, if you have any issue during the lab, please notify me as soon as possible and send me like more information about your operating system. For example, I'm using, for example, Windows or whatever, Mac or whatever operating system, and I face this issue. So at least to make my life easier to try to figure out what's going on. Unfortunately, this week we don't have, uh, I cannot meet you in person. Next week, yes, we don't have a TA, and it looks like the department is not gonna assign a TA. So I have to do, the teaching and the TA assignment by myself. So again, if you have an issue, please reach me out as soon as possible. Don't wait until the last minute. So again, if you have an issue with the lab, especially for the first lab, I will give you a few more days to finish this one, because I need to make sure that everyone managed to install the virtual machine and also install, the Kali in his computer or her computer to start working in the next lab. Anyway, so last time we went over the Linux, just to give you an idea what's going on with the operating system Linux, and we focus in the Kali Linux or Kali, let's say, operating system or virtual, and I ask you to do, just to download the image and install it on your machine. Hopefully, I believe all of you, most of you, except maybe one student, managed to do that. The problem with the virtualization, by the way, if you have Mac Air, so I think that has M1 chip. That means you cannot do the virtualization, I believe. If you manage this one, then you don't have a problem. So I believe if you have a problem, if you're that student, I need just to reach him out to double check with him what operating system he has. If he has a Mac Air, with M1 chip, then we cannot install the virtual machine on that. So we'll try to figure out alternative solution with that student. I've sent a request to the Google in order to get, cloud credit. Hopefully they're gonna maybe apply within maybe 1 or 2 weeks maximum. If we get this one, I will distribute the credit or share it with you, so you at least you have a chance to work with the cloud. I will try to cover this one later. So anyway, so we went to the Kali, and we said the Kali is very important operating system because this tool that has intended to use by the professional in the both IT and the security as a mechanism to assess the security of target environment. So it's very important. Okay, and we went over some. First we talk about the basic of working with the Linux. We talk about the interface, and we talk about the Linux navigation, the terminal. Then we talk about the directories in the Linux in general. Then after that, we went over some commands. I believe you did, I think the top 20 or 25 commands using the Linux. Okay, in general, hopefully you have an idea. And right now, I'm not going to say professional, but you get to use this operating system because it's very important for us. And mainly we're going to work with this operating system. One thing I need just to finish, because I didn't finish the slides in this part before I jump to the next part, today's lecture, we'll talk about the scripting, etc. So we talk about the Kali Linux, terminal, and this is how the terminal looks like. And we talk about some commands, okay? Let me jump to the slide. We talk about how can we change the directory, how can you, for example, check, your path, where the current path that we have right now, and you can check who's the current user here. By the way, I think I received a question last lecture about whether we can change the Kali username. Yes, we can do that. Maybe I will add this one in the lab, add like one extra task if you wish to change the username and password instead of using the default username and password on the Kali. Maybe you change to another user or to your name. That's doable. So we can maybe add this one to the lab, maybe next lab. Okay, so you can list, the content of the directory using ls. if we have hidden file ls, we have some options you can use. For example, L, that means it give you like more details about the files, and you can the access rights, for example, for the user, for the owner, to the file or the directory, or you can specify the access right or permission. Let's say the permission is better, whether you can allow to use, do read, write, or execute this file or this directory. It depends on the owner, the group, or anyone else. So it's going to be a helpful tool. We're going to try to use this one today, especially when you create our script. We're going to see what is the default access right or permission when you create a file in the Linux in general. Then how can you change this one access right to, or modify this one in order to give, for example, execution permission for the specific file. Okay, you can double check and we can check, you see, the hidden files. That's in this case, you just add, the option A or flag A to the ls, which is going to help you to perform that. Okay, so just I want to go over this one quick here. By the way, in the Linux we have a case sensitive. That's reason in this case, this one must be ls. Okay, lowercase, not the uppercase, in order to work. We talk about the pwd, which is going to be just to tell me, for example, where the print, the working directory that I'm working with. CD change, the directory. By the way, if you are old like me, working with the disk operating system, this looks like the similar command that we use. Of course, we don't have ls, we don't have pwd, but we have different commands. For example, cd, how can you change the directory? How can you create a directory? By the way, you can use the GUI or graphical user interface or the file manager in the Linux in order to do these commands. But I encourage you to try to be familiarized working with the terminal, because it's very important for us. Okay, and sometimes there's some commands can be easy to work right using the terminal instead using the GUI. Another thing, maybe for example, if you wanted to create a directory, okay, and you can use the command make mkdir, and you can specify whatever the name of the directory that you want to build or you want to create. Okay. The other one here you can do, for example, if you try to remove the content or delete, or remove, empty directory. If, for example, I have a directory, say CS495, this is the directory that I have in the system. If I want to remove this one, you just say remove, and you can specify directory and the name of the directory here. If this directory empty, you can use this command. If not, we have another command. Either if you want to use the remove directory, either you get change the to the directory, so you have to enter the directory, delete all the files, then after that exit the directory, then after that you can use the remove directory, or you can use rm, where the command is going to do what? It's going to delete or remove the directory, and even the directory is not empty, it's going to delete all the files that are stored in this directory. Okay, another command, use copy. Yeah, you will mind us. We have many options. But what I'm doing right now, just to give you, a hint, then I give you, like, let's say, the basic way, how can you perform that? Of course, for every single command that we have, there's many options of flag. You can add them in order to come up with whatever, give you more powerful. And one interesting thing here, you can use, the manual for every single command here. It'll give you more details about many options, many details. How can you perform that? One thing, just I need to jump to the right slide here. You can perform, by the way, copy files from true. You can move the file or copy the file from one place to another place. And this with the copy has many options. It's allow you to copy from one file to another new file, or copy from one file from one place to another place, another directory or new location. From this original location, take this file and move it, or copy to another location. Move it, gonna do the copy and move the content here. So it looks like I move from one place and copy to another place. All of them has some options. I believe I need to update the lab to, maybe if either I'm gonna add some commands more for the Linux here, just to make sure that you can practice more how to work with this one, or give you like as an exercise to do that. Okay. So for every single command here, you need just to go over and go with the manual to see how to work with this one. For example, again, for the copy, we have, as I mentioned, we have many options. By the 3 options, actually, 3 ways to do that. Either copy from the source to the destination. You copy, for example, the source file to the destination, this one option. Or maybe you can copy, for example, of course we have some options here, I didn't add them, yeah. There is another, let's say, copy from the source to the directory. So I have a copy from the file, for example, from this place to a specific directory here. Or let's say copy a set or number of files from one place to another, to say in the directory. So say copy file 1, file 2, and etc. And you can specify, for example, where the directory that you want to store or copy this file. Again, you can perform this operation using graphical user interface. It's much easier, but as I mentioned, you need just to test, you need to practice using the command line. Okay. Another thing here, let me check here, move the file. I believe I work about the move file. As I mentioned, you can move from, it looks like you need to rename a file. This is the one way you can do this one using the move file command. For example, you can say move, okay, mv file 1 to the file 2 in the same directory. So it looks like you take this file and rename it to another file. This one way you can do that. Okay. Anyway, so what the last part here, we need to talk about the live CD and DVD here. Remember, when we talk about the beginning of this class, of this chapter here, we said we need first to take a look at the Linux system in general, list some of its features, then after that talk about the Kali Linux, then after that work about some, when you say, commands that, how can you work with the basic working with the, when you say the command or using the terminal, using that allow us in order to perform some commands using Kali. Then after that, there's something else here. We have different versions. By the way, if you looked at the way that you download the link that I give it to you in order to download the virtual machine or instance that you wanna, or the image that you're gonna use, install in your system, virtual machines, you see that you have many options here. Yeah, one of them you can download live CD, which what is called, that's what I need to cover here today here. Okay, so what's the live CD here? Okay, in any Linux system, they're gonna give you what is called live CD. This is like a piece of media that contains a complete and bootable operating system. So you can have it here, I mean, but in your flash, or maybe CD or DVD, or we have external flash or external hard disk, you can do what? You can download, I mean, complete version, or say complete and bootable operating system for the Linux in general, which allow you to do many options, many tasks here, okay? Mainly I use this one in order to what? I need to test the system. I need to, for example, I do have my computer. I want to change this one using different operating system in the Linux, whatever version that we have. Instead, modify my computer, okay? Install the operating system in the new computer, and this may be going to be compatible with the hardware or not, maybe cause an issue, etc. I can't test this one. What I'm going to do here, I download a copy using the live CD, let's say using external flash, then I just insert my flash, boot the computer, and I instruct the computer in order to boot from the flash. So in this case, you have full operating system, and it's going to utilize whatever the hardware that we have in your computer, and you have complete system works. Okay, you can test if everything is fine. So this, in this case, maybe you can have a fresh copy you can install in your computer. That's one thing. We can use this one in a different way here, okay? By the way, if you take off your flash, okay, and you start your computer, then your computer is gonna be, I mean, operate normally from the hard disk, from the normal operating system that we have. So the question here, why we have a live CD here? Why we need this one? This is a live CD gonna help you, for example, maybe installing Linux in your system. Maybe you're gonna test a new software, that's what we did here. Maybe help me in order to evaluate different hardware configuration to see using the bootable from the, for example, the flash or external hard disk, so I can try to perform some configuration of the hardware and see whether it works or not. Maybe I can use this one with an interesting thing that hopefully we can do this one within this semester. We can use like the live CD in order to help us in order to cracking the password, or to steal the password, or resetting the password. Yeah, we can do this one in order, for example, you cannot access the system. Maybe we can use bootable or live CD in order to try to crack and get in the system here. And we can use this one in order to perform, I mean, penetration testing. So that's very interesting here. We can summarize here what, I mean, the live CD and DVD use. By the way, maybe some people say, oh, it's only live, I mean, only using CD and DVD. No, not only. As I mentioned, might be you have a flash, maybe you have external hard disk, so all of them can be live in general, you can under the live CD or DVD. Okay. The problem here, if you don't use, for example, use a live distribution. The problem here, if you bootable from the, let's say, external flash drive or live CD or DVD, the problem here is the performance. Okay, of course, you are not going to have the exact performance that as the performance that you're going to get if the system is completely installed in your computer, right? Because here you're going to mainly working in the only on the RAM, right? While if you work in your own computer system with the operating system already installed in your computer, so here you can use the RAM, you can use the virtualization, or let's say virtual memory in order to using part of the hard disk as the virtual memory in order to execute fast, make it faster, yeah. So the performance is going to be degraded, but for our case, it works fine because the goal here just I need to evaluate the hardware, test the new software, maybe I need just to cracking the password or try to log into the system or try to fix something in the system. Okay, so it's doable, it's acceptable in this case. When you talk about the live CD or DVD, we can, classify this one into two parts or two, let's say, categories. The first one we say can be generic or very specific. Okay, what does that mean, generic or very specific? Or let's say when you say very specific or purpose-built. Okay, so when you say purpose-built, for example, for the live CDs, that means are different from the live distribution in that. In this case, we build them with unique purpose or need in mind. We say it's like very specific or purpose-built. I build this live CD in order to help me to do something. In order, for example, using password reset, that's the one that we can use. Or maybe use the live CD or DVD in order as a rescue disk, for example. That's what we use. We used to have like a portable let's say disk which allow us in order to help reboot or fix the system or issue the system here. Kali can be, a special purpose in this case. We use this one in order just to install the Kali, allow me in order to execute the Kali in system, okay? So the regular one, the one that provides everything you need to install and run Linux, and the other one, special purpose, or let's say very specific, that may lack some capability, yeah, and also maybe you cannot install at normal, so you have, that's what you're planning to do at the end, within this semester. And by the way, I'm planning to do a lot of stuff. Hopefully we get a chance to do all of them. Yeah. So don't be sad at the end of the semester if you said, here, he promised us to do a lot of things, but he didn't do most of them. No, I will try to do my best to cover everything that, to do whatever we said in this class. But as I mentioned, the plan is big and we don't have enough time to cover everything. Okay. Another thing that we notice, we work with a virtual machine. And the reason behind this one, I need to do what? Most of the, there's some security professionals, they use their laptop in order to try to perform penetration testing and etc. In our case, especially right now, we try to test something, okay? Maybe in this, whatever, when you install the Kali and maybe I need to install different, let's say, operating system and I need to simulate the situation that, for example, from my Kali machine or let's say image or whatever operating system, I need to try to access different machines, okay? Different operating system. In order to simulate the situation, there is nothing better than use virtual machines. Of course, right now we can use the cloud, yeah, though that's what I'm planning to do. Maybe we're gonna have two options. Mainly we'll focus on the virtual machine, and if we get a chance to work in the cloud, that's gonna be great. Because what I'm gonna do right now, what the plan here, you have, for example, Kali here, okay? And using the Kali operating system that we have, you need to try to simulate X, for example, the Windows machine. Maybe you have another using, say, Linux Ubuntu machine, and maybe you have different versions of the Windows. For example, Windows 2019, Server 2016, and maybe we have another machine or another, let's say, computer that has installed, let's say, pre-installed with different versions of the Windows. Then here we try to simulate, for example, since we have, and I need to build my network. Yeah, assume that the system that you have, and from the Kali, I need to simulate how can you manage to try to access or attack these machines with the system. Without virtualization, it's hard to do this one. Unless we have a physical computers connected to each other, then you're going to use your own computer in order to access them. So what the plan here? I'm going to use a virtual machine, and then within the virtual machine, which allow me to have different virtualization or different images, I can launch them in time together at the same time. That's what we're going to see, I think, not in the next lab, the lab after this one, when I'm going to show you, for example, how can we install some instance or some, say, images. Then after that, show you how to build your network within the virtual machine, and whatever going to happen within the virtual machine is not going to hurt your computer, because whatever going to happen in the virtual machine is going to stay within the virtual machine. Okay, so don't really worry about maybe you're going to hurt your system in general. Okay, that's all about the first part. Hopefully, right now we are confident that okay, we do have like we have a virtual machine, and we're going to use a virtual machine for learning purpose, and also in order to protect my machine or my computer, okay, my hardware. Within the virtual machine, we can build many images. For example, Kali, Windows, and etc. different operating system. You can launch them. You can specify the network within the virtual machines. You can simulate that we have a system, and the system, for example, you can build whatever. You can have a subnet that a band. Maybe you can expand this one. We have some computers going to be this one net here. This is one subnet. This is another subnet, and this is my Kali. Try to start access these subnets here. Okay. Hopefully right now, everyone managed or able to work with a Kali. I believe most of you already have experience working with a Linux-based system, so that's great. So now the next step here, we need to do what? We need to start looking at the way, how can we start doing, penetration testing. Before I do this one, it's worth to mention that we need to take a look here. Remember I said, we don't want to turn you as a script kiddie or kiddie script, okay? Okay, the one that only try to have a tool available, use the whatever available tool in order to try to attack the system, or in order to simulate, let's say, a specific attack to the system. I want from you to learn, for example, how can you build your own script? How can you build your, let's say, own code which allow you in order to perform this kind of attack? Or maybe if you have one script and you can be, I want from you to be able in order to understand how script working, then you can modify your script, this script or whatever script that you found in order to help you to perform another attack or different attack. So in this part, I call this one chapter 2, part 2, here we're programming for the security professionals. I modify the slides, the last version was yesterday, and I'm planning to add more slides in this part here. Okay, so here I need to take a look at, we need to do what in this part, start in this chapter. Look at some examples of the computer programming. We're going to take a look to the bash scripting and the Python, and maybe a little bit about the C programming. Okay, again, it doesn't mean that you have to be, actually you have to be professional at least in one of these programming language to be ethical hacking. Otherwise you're going to be like someone that just use you're not gonna be professional, okay? And they say, I wrote this one here, any self-respecting hackers must be able to write scripts, okay? It doesn't hurt, yes, someone is gonna say, but does it hurt me if you found one existing script that helped me to do the job? That's fine. But how about you adding something extra? You can build your own script. You can modify the existing script in order to perform, let's say, more sophisticated attack. Okay, so anyway, we're gonna take a look to a few samples of the bash shell script. We're gonna define what do you mean by the bash, shell in general, what do you mean by the shell script, okay, and how can we write this one, using shell or bash scripting or Python or C language, or there's other programming language we can use for them, for example, Ruby, one of them, or Perl. So that's why you have many programming language you can use to help you to build the script, okay. What do you mean by the script? It looks like here we are going to write a program in order to automate, let's say, various, let's say, useful tasks in multiple programming language. What does that mean in this case? For example, you need to perform specific tasks. For example, you need to check Bing, for example, check for what are the live computers or machines, or what are the computers live in specific network. Then after that, you need to perform some, let's say, in mapping or other commands in order to try to navigate to check what kind of cells are there, and etc. Then after that, maybe you need to inject or add, let's say, malicious code there. So all these steps, you can put them in one file, and you can just execute this file one time, and the file or as a script is going to perform these, tasks. Okay. So here we're going to take a look into the bash scripting. We're gonna spend some time to work with that, yeah, with more details. Python, based on the slides right now, I didn't cover this one. More details, the plan to add more. So mainly today we're gonna, focus in only the first part, okay? Then after that, we're gonna take a look at the Python and the how can you write and compile C programs. You're gonna notice here, sometimes I give you just the introduction part, okay? Just how to use the bash and Python in general for the security purpose, writing code, okay? Then later during the semester, when you work around, for example, different tools allow you, for example, gather information. Then after that, navigate to check, for example, what the open source or open ports are in the, how can you check, for example, whether we have open source or open ports. Then after that, we're gonna see, since we know how to do this one manually, line by line, or to say command by command, then after that, it's a good idea to take all of them and put it to one script. Okay, it's a different script in order to perform the job. So right now, only I'm gonna give you like simple example how to bing, okay, how to check whether there is a live machine or not. Then later, when you know more commands, it's gonna be easy for us to write different scripts. So I'm going to revisit this one later. Okay. So the first thing we need to go over here, we need to understand, what the operating system looks like. Maybe we talk about the, since we're gonna write using Kali, we need to take a look at the operating system Kali or Linux in general, how it looks like, okay? So mainly I need to talk about the kernel and the shell here, okay? So if you take a look here, how this is, this is the architecture of Linux or Linux-based operating system, okay, in general. So we do have the first layer or the side layer is called the hardware. When you talk about the hardware, that means it comprises all the, let's say, the devices or peripheral devices, for example, like the CPU, the RAM, the hard disk, and so that's gonna be here in the hardware or hard disk. Okay, so here it might be the hard disk, it might be the RAM, the CPU, the printer, whatever. All of them gonna be the hardware here. Then in the top of the hardware, we do have the kernel. What's the kernel? The kernel is defined as is the heart of the operating system. Okay, and the main task for this, kernel is doing what here? Is interact with the hardware. So this one somehow give you, in other words, in order to interact with the hardware, you're gonna go through the kernel, and the kernel gonna allow me to interact with the hardware and giving us what is called the low-level service to these components of the upper layers. So what does that mean? Again, in this case, I think I have more details here of the kernel here, the core components of the operating system, and to allow me in order to communicate or manage the resource in the system in general here. Okay? For example, I need to access the hard disk. How can I do this one? I have to go through the kernel. Okay? As a user, I need to give this command, I need to interact with the kernel. Actually, as a user, you cannot interact or communicate directly with the kernel. You have to use what is called the shell, okay? So the shell is like an interface, either gonna be graphical or this using command line, and know how to do this one. For example, you wanted to change the directory. You need to create the directory. So you're gonna use a terminal, right? And within the terminal, you're gonna write, for example, make directory, and you create a specific directory. Then you need to create a new directory within the hard disk. So the terminal is going to do what? Allow you to write your command. Then the shell is like an interface. Take your command, then interrupt or change this one or communicate with the kernel in order to say or tell the kernel the user wants to create a new driver. Okay? So the shell here is an interpreter, which takes the command from the user and convert them in the language that the kernel can understand. So if you went back here, so this is the hard disk that we have, or they say the component, or say the hardware that we have. This is the kernel, was like a piece of software which allow me in order to what? To do the low level, let's say, service. Allow me to access the low level service, or communicate, for example, I want to access a hard disk, I need to perform specific action in the hardware. So how can you do this one? As a user here, you're going to use the shell, and the shell is going to convert whatever the command from the human, right? Or the human can understand in the language that the kernel can understand, then the kernel is going to perform the service. As a user, I cannot communicate directly with or interact with the kernel. I need to interact with the kernel with the shell. Make sense? So again, the shell is going to take the commands from the user and execute the function of the kernel. Good. So the shell is gonna have, can be classified again, it might be as a command line or the graphic. Okay, the command line, the one that, you know, in any operating system we do have, like in the Linux and Mac operating system, we do have what is called the terminal, right? In the Windows we have like the command prompt, if you're familiar with the Windows operating system. So it's like, in this case, the shell can be accessed by the user, as we said, using a command line interface or the graphical user interface. In the command line interface, it's called terminal in Linux or Mac, or command prompt in the Windows operating system. Okay, it looks like give you like provided something of type in the human readable commands. For example, I can say ls, I can say cd, I can say cat, I can say touch, whatever command you're going to perform is for the user, it can be readable by the human, and this one somehow can be executed through the shell. Who can understand this one? The shell is going to say translate, interpret, whatever the command that we have, and going to be executed converted in the way that the kernel can understand or can see how it works. Okay, good. The result going to be displayed in the terminal. Whatever you're going to write in the terminal here, and going to display back to you. The graphical shells, that different story here. So in this case, it's going to give you like graphical user interface with another thing. It can allow you in order to interact with what? For example, when you create or create a file, you can click using the file manager, or just right click in your mouse, create whatever new directory, change the name of file, move the file, just drag and drop somewhere else. That's what it was kind of, the shell. And this interactive shell using the graphical user interface. Okay? So we know what's the shell. Now, what's the shell script? Okay? So generally speaking, when you work in the command line shell, okay, it might be difficult for the beginner, okay, because it's hard to memorize, for example, so many commands. Right now, when you work with the Linux, unless you have previous experience working with the Linux system in general, maybe at the beginning if you see that, oh, there's too many, commands I need to memorize, and each command that we have maybe have many options. -L, O, whatever, A, each of them, for example, ls might be ls, or maybe ls A, ls L, and more, or maybe combine them. They have many options here, right? So how can you memorize all of them? So it's gonna be useful, okay, in this case, if we can manage to take these commands and we can store them in the file, then after that we can execute them together. This is the shell script, okay? It's similar in the files. When I used to work with, in the Windows we call this one batch files. If you remember, an old guy like me, we used to do this one. In the disk operating system or DOS operating system, that's what we're doing here. We have a set of commands, put it in the batch file. When I say batch, that means .bat file. Then after that, when you execute this file, the system gonna do what? It's gonna just execute the command that I specified in linear, a sequence, one at a line, one after one, okay? So again, it's a good idea if we manage to have a file, I'll put all the commands, store these commands in the file and execute them together. That's the shell script, okay? You notice that I talk about bash or shell scripts, etc. I'm gonna talk about the bash. Right now, let's focus on the shell script, or shell on the shell script, okay? When you create a file and put whatever any file in the Linux base, when I say Linux base, that means any operating system based on the Linux in general. When you create a file, you see that you cannot execute this file in general. Why? Because when you generate or create a file, it has like default access or permissions. Mainly you're gonna have only read, you cannot execute. So in order to execute any file, new file, you need to make sure that you give the execution permission, all right, to the owner or whoever you want to specify here. Generally speaking, if you have a file, you're gonna see here, actually, if you wrote, for example, ls, this one here, ls -l, for example, you're gonna give you the list of the files that we have, and the front here, you're gonna give you like, let's say, 9 character, actually it's 10, it's like score, dash. Then after that, for example, you have read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute. The first one is, if dash, that means this is file. If direct, it's gonna have find D. it's going to be represented as a D. The first three letters here, read, write, execute, this is for the owner. Or here we call the user. That's the one who owns this file, the one who creates this file. This is the access right. He can read, he can write, he can execute. If you have dash instead one of these letters here on this position, that means this one you don't have this access right. For example, if you found one file, you have, for example, read, write, dash. So that means the owner can read, can write, but can't execute or cannot run this one, or the user. Here, the next three letters just give, represent the access right to the group. We know that we have like users, and users maybe gonna be member of the groups. Okay, so for the group here, can have this access right, read, write, execute. If you have dash, 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 this means it doesn't have any access right. The last three letters here just to represent the access right to anyone else. So anyone, a user, it's not the owner of the file, it not belongs to any members of this group that has access right to this file. So in this case, anyone else. By default, this is going to be the least access right here. Okay, so based on this information, you can tell, you can specify, for example, what the access right do you have in any file. Okay, so when you try to execute the file, when you create the file, you notice that for the owner doesn't have the access right. I'm going to simulate this one later, okay, and during this class. So in this case, you need to do what? You need to give the access right, modify the access right. How can you change the access right? In this case, I'm going to change the mode. Okay, this is the command you can use here, and you have a different ways to do this one. Okay, either absolute or relative. Okay, either I'm going to say, for example, for the user, I give you the user, for example, plus x. X this means execute to the specific file, or you can use a change mode with the numbers here. For example, 755, whatever the file. 755, that means I'm going to give all the access right to the owner. 5 is going to be all the access right to say, execute access right is going to be to the group. And the last one, 5 is going to be, I need to add execute to, what's it called? Anyone else. I'm going to go over this one in the lab, okay? I will give you the lab more details about this one, how the access right is going to be modified, how the different ways to perform that, where these numbers came from. For example, for the read, write, execute 1, 2, 3. For example, if you wanted to give me all the access right to this one, for example, you need just to add the numbers. For example, you need read and write. I'm not sure about these numbers, but assume that read is going to be 1, write 2, execute 3. Read and write is going to be 1 plus 2 is going to be something like this. I believe maybe 4. I'm not sure. I think 4. I don't remember these numbers here. But for every single access right, you're going to have a specific number. When you read and write, so you have to just add these numbers in order to give me whatever the access right. If you give me 3, for example, that means he can read and write at its set. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, if you add all these numbers, yeah, I think 1, 2, 4. Yeah, 1, 2, 4. If you want to give me a read, write, execute, that means you're going to say 1 plus 2 plus 4. So the total is going to be 7. So when you say 7 here for the first one, I give you read, write, and execute. Make sense? I know it looks like I'm jumping from one point to another point. I wasn't planning to talk about this one, but at least to give you an idea. When you create a file, you cannot execute this file. Exactly, Octa system, yeah. But here we need just to have these for each read or write or execute, it's going to have a specific number. Then by adding this number, you can specify, for example, what the access right you can come up with. For example, if you want to give the user read and execute, so in this case, you can say, for example, 1 plus 4. So you just say change mode 5. So the first 5 is going to be the read and execute. Okay? As I mentioned, I will add, make sure that the next lab is going to cover this one in more details. Anyway, so now the most important thing, we know what the shell, we know what, the shell's like interface allow me in order to communicate with the kernel. Whatever the user gonna write, the shell is gonna take these commands, interpret them in the way that the language that the kernel can understand, then they're gonna be executed. Okay? The shell script, that means it's a good idea if you have a number of, let's say, commands or instructions. I can put them in one file, then I can execute them. Okay? Together. Okay? Remember, when you talk about the shell, how can it be executed? Remember, when we talk about the file. So it looks like someone is going to say, whether we're going to combine the file or going to be like interpreter. No, here is not combining. Combining, that means you take the file, then change to the machine code. in the way that the machine can understand, right? But the interpreter in this case take line by line and gonna execute this one. Whatever you're gonna hear, I'm gonna just show you, take this line and execute it in the low level. Okay? And that's what they talk about here. Okay. So what are the types of the shell? We have many types of the shell. Okay. So in Linux, there are two major types of shells. These are the two major main. Bourne shell, one thing, or the C shell. Okay? So the Bourne shell might be SH, if you remember this old one. We used to have the shell. SH with the, default shell used to be most Linux-based operating system. We have a Korn shell. We have born again shell with the bash. So if you know the bash, it looks like one type of the shell. Okay, we do have the Z shell with another type here. With I believe this is the default shell in the Mac operating system after 2019. Before that used to be the born again shell with the bash. Okay, if you said bash like acronym of the what kind of bash you're gonna use here. Why we need to focus on the bash? Because the most operating system by default has the bash. Kali has this one. Ubuntu has this one. Even the Mac already still support the bash script. Okay, maybe in the future we need to change to the Z shell. It's not. The difference between one shell and another shell, maybe they have some extra features. Okay. So that's why they've said, because the bash shell is available nearly all the Unix distributions, so we're going to focus on this one. Okay, so I can use the bash. So right now, maybe I'm going to remove the shell and I'm going to say bash. So bash, again, is the just type of the shell here. And maybe allow us in order to run whatever you can write in the command line and can be executed, the bash can execute this one, can run this one. Okay, so let's take a look. The first thing we need to understand to see what kind of version or bash version do we have. Okay, so the simple thing you can understand to do this one, if you open your machine here. By the way, if you already install the system or the Kali is already installed in your machine, I encourage you right now to open the machine, the virtual machine, launch the Kali, and start doing this one with me in the class. So it's going to be interesting at least to see the command. And I will try to use Kali, but the problem here is switching between the Kali, and the slides is going to take time, back and forth. Later I will do this one, but right now I want from you to follow me, okay? So if you take a look at the bash and double dash version, it's going to give you the bash version that we have. The good thing here, since we're going to write a script, we need to know exactly where the bash is going to be installed, where the bash interpreter installed or located in my system. The simple way to do that, you can write type space bash, and the type bash is going to tell you exactly where the bash interpreter is located. Why? Because later we're going to see that when you write my script, I need the first line, I'm going to say, I'm going to use this, please use this script or this interpreter in order to understand, in order to execute the following commands. You can specify at the top whether we're going to use a bash, or you can use whatever type of bash, shell. If you have a different type of Z shell or whatever, you can use this one. Or if you want to use, for example, Python, you can tell the system, I'm going to use the Python interpreter in order to execute the following commands. Okay? So this is very important to tell you where exactly it can be installed. In our case, it's going to be user binary bash. Okay, we'll keep this one located. Good. So now when you're starting writing or work with the bash script, it looks like coding, programming language somehow. It's programming language, allowing me to do what? I can use, the shell keyword. I can use if-else statement, which allow me to control the flow. I can use loops. I'm going to cover them during this class. I will add more slides. Maybe it's going to be boring some of you, but at least we need to understand how to use this command, because when you write your script, definitely somehow you need to use this statement, right? You're going to use if statement, you're going to use loop, perform this operation multiple times, and etc., right? And you can use, some functions. You can create function within the script. You can shell script, actually. Or maybe I'm going to use a script to simplify the process. You can use, I mean, the shell command, for example, cd, whatever the command that you can write or type in the command line or terminal, you can use them here, and more. Okay, so let's start first. The simple thing, I'm going to write to create, let's say, the first script. When you write the first script, hello world or hello hackers. By the way, if you go to the slides in the Blackboard, you're gonna notice that I uploaded or passed, zip file. This file or zip file that contains all the codes that we're gonna use today in this lecture. So you can download them, put it in your machine, create a specific folder, and started working with this one. It's a good idea. At least we have some codes already there. Whatever we cover here, it's already there. So you have a chance to access these codes. Okay. The first thing when you write your script, the first line you have to tell the operating system, for example, which interpreter you want to use for this script. As I mentioned, we have a different types of shell. You can tell me bash or whatever, the shell or the whatever. You can't tell me exactly which bash or to say shell you want to use. Or you can tell me, for example, I'm gonna please use Python in order to interpret this one, as we're gonna see later. Okay, so how can you tell that? I'm gonna use what we call shebang. What the shebang does means we have a bound and we have, let's say, exclamation mark. If the first line, if you use this one here, then here you can tell me exactly which to say interpreter you're gonna use. So the first line in the script must have this command. Then after that, you're gonna specify the folder. You can see, for example, user binary, then bash. So the system is gonna say, whatever inside this file, I'm gonna use the bash interpreter in order to execute this file. Make sense? Actually, you can either get a slash user or maybe remove the user here. We just specify binary and bash. Both of them gonna work. Okay. So again, you can use Python, you can use Perl, you can use whatever. Interpreter. Now the next line, the second line, echo with like a command. It's gonna do what? It's gonna like echo back or print back or simply repeat whatever you're gonna write within the echo. Yeah. So you can see, for example, echo. This is my first program. Then you create a file and store this one within this script. Okay? So we can summarize, the steps here. How can you write shell script in general? First, you need to create a file. And you have many ways in order to create a file. Either you're gonna use to say any editor. By the way, when you say any editor, it depends on you using different editors. It doesn't change or modify or say affect the performance or the functionality of the script that you need to build. Whatever you're gonna use here. Okay. So you can use touch, for example. You can use a command line, whatever you want. Okay. You open the file. You create a file and you save the file .sh. In order to identify this is gonna be like a shell. Okay. Then after that, start the first line with shebang. Then after that, specify the path in order to create your file. Where you can find your, the interpreter used for this file. And then after that, put it in the place that the shell can find it. How can you tell this one? It looks like you need to take a look to the path, right? There is one command we can use in order to tell me the path. For example, if your folder is already in this path, so you are fine, you can use this one, you can run this code. Otherwise, you have a special way in order to execute this file. I'm gonna show you a different way how to execute this file. Okay, so again, just to give you an idea about the path, I think I'm going to add a lot of stuff in the next lab. So anyway, we have a $sign, and you can say in this case, echo and path, okay? This one is gonna be echo back, give you the actual path, whatever the file that is already in the path. Okay? So if your file is already in the path, so you can execute this one just and let's say the prompt, just write the file name .sh and you can execute. If it's not, you have to use /, yeah, then the name of the file in order to execute it. Or you can use the bash, then the file name in order to execute it. So we have many ways in order to execute this one. Okay, So we have many ways. If you have a dot slash, you have to change the access right to the file, or I'm sorry, I did this one by myself. Okay, now you can fix it. Okay, either give the permission to execute it, or you can use it, I mean, the place that the shell can see it, so you can just execute without dot slash. Dot slash, that means if you have execute the file, that reside in this folder. If you find any file has the same name in other folder, execute, I mean, just ignore. Okay, I believe I think let's jump to the using, give me a second, just I want to launch the Linux. Then after that, I think it's better to work with the Linux. So whatever, I'm gonna cover the slides, so you can just, I'm gonna say the slide number. I think you have, all of you have access to the slides, okay? So just I need to focus on the, try to test or apply this one using the Kali. Give me a second, and just to open the slides here to make sure that I have access to the slides too. Good. Let me share with you the Kali. Hopefully all of you have access to this one. Okay, so what I did here, you can create a folder. That's what I did here. We have a folder, L3, lecture 3, or whatever, or another folder, whatever you're gonna do, okay? Create folder, open this one, and all these files that we did here, that's what these files are gonna be covered here. It's already, by the way, you can download them, and I mean from the Blackboard. The first thing, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a file. Then I'm gonna show you the access right of the file, and within this file, I need just to, let's say, the content of this folder. I'm gonna just execute ls space l. Okay. So what I'm gonna do here, I just create this the simple thing. You can open terminal here. You know, just to click here. Let's say I'm gonna just create a new file. Let's say you can have many ways, by the way, to create the file. One of them you can say touch, and touch is gonna create a file. Let's say CS495.sh, weird file, whatever. I create this file, okay? When you read this one, let's say take a look ls myself. Just give me the access right of this file. You just create this file. This one will give you the access right. Oh, you see that I have many files here? Okay, it doesn't hurt. Okay, you can take a look here, you see, with the access right of this file here. This one, you see here? So the first dash means that is not directory. If it's, that means it's file. If there's a D, that means it's directory. Okay? For the owner can read, write, cannot execute. For anyone in the group can read, write, and also this, I think you can do this one. Analyze L. Let's see, CS star. Yeah, simplify the process. So you can use star in order to just say any file start with the CS. So make our life easier. So here you can focus on the file here. 0 byte, nothing. Who did create this one? Who's the owner of this one? Kelly. And for the owner can read, write, cannot execute. The others can, the group and anyone else can only read. Okay? So in order to change the mode here, this is a file. First, let me try to add something in this file. We have many ways. I'm gonna go with the easy one. Okay? You can click over this file and open with mousepad. This is the simple thing that you can do with this file. Okay? Then after that, what I'm going to do, remember we said we need to have a file, and inside this file I need to just wanted to perform ls minus l. The first line that you need to write here, you have to tell me exactly where I can execute this file, which interpreter you can use. Shebang. Then after that you can specify slash user. Just tell me exactly where the bash you're going to use. I'm going to ask the system, please use, for example, the system bash. I mean the interpreter bash. Okay? Then the next line, what do you want to do here? I need to do ls minus l. Can I do this one? Yes. Let me add something else. Echo. First, let's say script. Okay? Of course, echo. My keyboard let me down. If you have any errors, any mistakes from doing typing, it's not my problem. It looks like the connection. Yeah, I'm gonna blame the connection. Anyway, when you've done this file, I need just to file and save. Okay, back here, if you try to say with the site, this is clear here, and you see, for example, the ls of the file. You see the file has, for example, how many bytes here. So the file has some content. Okay, Then now I need to do what? I need to try to execute this file. The way you execute this file here, we have many ways. The simple thing, I can change the mode here. This you try first to execute the file without you changing. They say, what is the best of this is the way how to execute the file. I will try to do this one. CS is a, yeah. And when you enter here, the system say, you don't have a permission. Yeah, this is, the default shell. You don't have a permission to execute this file. Why? Because you only read and write. So you have many ways. The one way to do, what if I can do dash CS here without saying specify this one. So the system gonna, in this case, it's gonna execute this file. The bash, there's no need in order to execute the bash, is gonna do what? Take this file and execute it using the bash interpreter, even if you don't have execute permission. So what you see, what happened? This file listed all the files, okay, in the and here I'd add this is the last print statement. So it works fine. Another thing we can do here, you can do change the mode of the file, which allow me to change the access of the file to be executable. Okay, let me go over this one again. I can say change mode. I have a different ways to do that. Plus X. This means you can say to the owner or the user, give the plus X. This means I'm going to, this is another way how to give the access right to the file. Instead to give you the number 755 or whatever. Okay? And what the file CS to say 495. Okay? When I did that, let me try to check whether the access right changed or not. Oh, it should change. You see that? And now I have execute. Now I can do the file because it's not in the path. They can tell, oh sorry, CS, and execute the file, yes, listed all the files and echo the last statement. So here we managed to create a file, manage to file, change the access right, and we can do the next one. Make sense? Okay. I added echo, which is the next slide. What I did here, I add to say echo, which allow you know that to just print something in the file. So that's what happened in the next slide here. Sorry, we'll jump this one because we already have this one here. So one thing here, how can you work with a variable here? Let me go back to the slides. That's why I said it's hard to go back and forth. Thanks God. Next week, by the way, we can see you in the class, right? And good luck, by the way, to find the room. I know why the classroom gonna be in IIT Tower. I know, by the way, how can you find the room? So hopefully we're gonna, find the right place anyway. Let me go back here. Yeah, sometimes they say something doesn't make any sense, right? Doesn't mean I'm crazy. Okay, let's go back to the slides here. So that's what you did here. I just modified this one a little bit here. Yeah, we create a file, and inside the file here, we just type using the echo in order just to display the content of the file. Okay, and this is how it's going to be executed, the same thing that we did here. Okay, how can you use a variable? What does it mean? Sometimes you need to assign, you create a variable in order that either we're going to hold data from the user from the keyboard, entered by the user from the keyboard, or you can assign it as a parameter, assign a base by parameter, I would say argument, or you're going to assign this value, well, create this value within your script. So I'm going to use a variable. And the variable, the way that the same thing, any programming language has some rules. How can you come up with a variable? Can be contain any letters, A to Z, and any numbers, and must be underscore. The first, you can has underscore. The value is gonna be what? It's gonna be like a character string to which we assign a value. It looks like a pointer to the actual data. And this value can be number, can be text, can be file name, can be device, or any type of data. So anything it can be assigned as a value to this variable. Okay, how can you work with a variable? The simple thing to assign this one is similar to any programming language. You just say variable name, for example, equal the variable value. Usually you would prefer to use the variable name as using uppercase, just to distinguish that this is a variable and this is, this is a conventional way how to write your script. Okay, you can say, for example, A equal 15, or we can say, for example, name, or let's say S equal whatever string. Okay, so the system gonna A equal 15 and the string equal whatever value here. In order to try to access this value, you have to use a $sign. So that means you have to prefix the name with the $sign. In order to access the value, for example, I've said A equal 15. Then I want to see B is equal A. So that means I can say $sign here A. So whatever the system here, first you're gonna A equal 15, then I'm gonna create another variable B, and the B is gonna take what? I need to access the value of A. So in this case, I have to use the prefix, the name of the variable with the $sign. Okay, PHP, if you're familiar how to work with the PHP and so something similar. Good. So I will write another code, and aside this code, what I need to do here, I create, you're gonna notice, by the way, this is the name of the script, so it's gonna be make your life easier, which script you're gonna work, and this is the content of the script, and you can find the script in the blackboard. Okay, so the name here, I call this one shell variables. Okay, and aside this one, I have the following here. The first one must be in the at the beginning of each script. You have to tell me or specify which shell you're gonna use. Good. The second one is a nice idea when we have write your code. The first line is going to give you idea how can we execute this one. In case if there is an error or mistakes, the system is going to say, for example, in order to use this file or to say script, this is the way how to execute it. If the script requires from you to assign, provide me with some argument values, so you have to tell me, I show you the way how to execute this one. So here, how can you use this file? I just tell you, for example, this is the way how to run, the name of the file, and there's nothing, there's no argument here. So this is the way how to execute this file. Just, for help, give interesting way how this file is going to be executed. Okay, then after that, the first one is saying name is going to be Alice, A equal to 100, okay. Then what they said, echo. How can you echo? You need to access this value. Echo said $name, $A. So the system gonna print here Alice. Then after that, you're gonna have A is gonna be with the value A 200. Then after that, what I've said here, I need to take the name, value of name, and store to another value, variable. Then after that, echo back. I want to see how can, for example, change or can assign value from one place to another one. Okay? So let me see this one here. This is called the symbol one. Just I want to have this like a show variables. I'm a lazy guy, so I need to go over this one here. Open this one just to show you the code, how it looks like here. This is the code here. Okay, then let's run this one. Execute to see how it works here. Open Kernel here. Then after that, let's say, I forget the name. Yeah, show variable. When you run this one, see the user just print out. They tell me this is the way how to execute this one. This is Alice, comma, whatever the value of A. Then after that, I assign this one to the name. That's what we did here, all right? And the system just display the result here. Okay? Then after that, how about to say, for example, I need to pass command argument to the script. Which one interesting thing? Sometimes when you run your code or script, you're gonna see those are the values. For example, you are going to build, say, ping script, where they're gonna be just pinging, specific networks. I just require from the user to give me what the network class that you wanna, for example, ping. For example, what the first three oct numbers of the class that you need to test. For example, 10.0.1 or 192.168.1 or let's say whatever. Then after that, once I get this value from the user, the system gonna take this one and starting doing the pinging. That's what we're gonna do today. Next lecture, hopefully. Actually, we are not gonna have the time to do this one. So require from what? The user gonna provide me with some argument to the script. Okay, that's me. When you run the script, you're gonna say this is script name, execute this file, and those are the arguments used in order to help you in order to execute this file. Okay. So back to the slides here to see how it works here. So the way that you perform that here, the argument can be what? Can be passed to the script when it's executed. And by writing them what? As a space delimited. What does that mean here? In this case, when you write your code, for example, whatever the code that I have here, .sh, this is a file, then a space, I will give you, for example, A space B space C. So what does that mean here? This is the code of this script. I pass 1, 2, 3 argument to the system. Okay? We're gonna see later how can this one gonna be as a string, okay? Then I'm gonna show you later what if I wanted to pass an integer values. We're gonna see how can we from that. Okay, the simple thing here we have, in order to access this argument, okay, we need to use what? It's a reference to the inside the script, yeah? So I'm gonna use a $1. What does that mean? $1. That means this is the first argument of the value of the first argument provided by the user. When I say $2, that means this is the x to the second value, $3 to the third, and etc. Okay? If you use the variable $0, what does that mean in this case? This is going to be a reference to the current, let's say, script with the file. When I say current script, this is going to be a reference. This looks like this is going to be 0. This is the first 1, 2, 3. Whenever you have $0, it gives you the file name of the current script that you use. 1, the first argument, 2, 3, 4. I think we have up to 9 arguments, I believe. We can use them here. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this code, we're going to have what? We're going to create echo. Just I need to display what the counted is the $0, just to tell you this is going to be the script or current script. It will provide me the file name. And here, it's going to give me, for example, I need to have, for example, assume I know it's weird, it doesn't relate to the security, but this have a simple script which asks the user to provide course number and the grade. Then after that, they give you like that you pass this course with the specific grade, just to see how can we use this argument, okay? And here we have many ways. They just have a different ways. How can we access this argument? So the first one is going to take whatever the first value is going to be the course number. The second one is going to be grade, okay? Then here you can put this one into what? In the printf statement. I use the course number, the variable that holds the first argument, and here I use $2. I'm going to show you that the $2 is always going to keep track and have the value of the second argument. When I run my code, so this is the way how to run your code. When you run your code, you have to give me exactly, for example, what is the argument that you're going to perform here. And the nice thing, let me run this one because here I'm going to give you like one example. What if I didn't provide the argument? Then after that, what if, for example, I give you the argument? What the kind of error message here? By the way, if you try to execute this one using /, you have to change, the access right. Make sure that the user or the owner have the access right to execute this code of this file. What I use here is 755. That means I'm gonna give the execution, right, or permission to the owner, to the group, to anyone else in order to execute this file. Okay? I skip this step because next time we talk about this one before, so by default, that's what we're gonna do for every single file. Or you can use bash space the file name. Okay? So when I run this one, the code, let me go over this one here and try to see how can you perform that. This is the bash argument here, script. How script looks like here. Okay. What is it? This is different. This is 3. Yeah, we have 3 versions. So I will do the old versions here together in one place. While I'm here. So let me take out the first one here. This is the content here. When you try to execute this one, okay. Let me open here. What I'm gonna do here, I'm not gonna assign any values here. Okay? I just say I forget to this one. When you run this one, you say this one you pass with 0 grade. So there is no argument out there. Okay? Because the system is gonna say you pass nothing, the grade nothing. Because it's gonna be, it looks like it's gonna say, oh, the user didn't give me the argument value. Later we're gonna check using an if statement. We need to make sure that the user must give me 2 error values for the 2 arguments, otherwise there's an error. We can't specify this one. Right now we don't have the if statement, so you see that even if you didn't give me the values or the argument values or specify or pass any argument values, the system gonna accept this one and use this one as a blank, which is not a good idea, right? Because especially I expect the user to give me the network ID or the network range, then I'm starting doing the binging if the user don't give me this one, so I'm supposed not to do anything, right? I just notify the user, please give me the values, that's the correct one. Anyway. So assume that they give you here, and everyone wants to get A. And this is a class. The first one is going to be CS4, it's going to be the name of the course number, and the next one is going to be the grade. So when you run this one, the code is going to be passed. You take the argument value here, I mean the first one and the second, and you notice that the file name is what? Give me the file name as the $0 or $0. That means it's going to be the file name. Let's take a look at the next one here. How about someone? How can we handle, let's say, the what's called, I mean, the integer value? Or before that, let's take a look at the argument script too, which is going to give you here, just add how many arguments, give me a value, how many arguments that's specified by the user. What does that mean here? Does it mean, I need to open the file here, and you see the content here, actually here. So you see that, what I've done here, I'm going to use $pound. This one is going to give you how many arguments the user specified as input. For example, the user give me 2 arguments, that means it's going to be 2. If they give me 5, here when you run the code, it's going to be, the system going to be 5. And the good idea, what we did here, we add one echo here at the beginning. If the user didn't give me any argument values, just I want to make sure the user, this is the way how to execute this file or use this file, and this is the value going to be here. I expect from you to give me 2 arguments, A1 and A2. Okay? So let me run this one here. Yeah, I'm lazy guy. So it's true, I guess. That is H. Do you have let me double check the name here first. Yeah, it's version 2. Yeah, that's the problem. Every time you have different way to. I'm old. Yeah, I'm getting old. Let's do this. Come on. Yeah. I changed my mind. You're gonna get B in this class. You see that? The first one uses, give me the value here. They expect 2 arguments. Here the parent is 0. This is 1 and 2. And here give me the number of arguments that provided by the user here in the system here. Okay? The third thing that we need to look at, since we have a few minutes, how can we handle, let's say, the integer values? The integer value have a special thing here. I mean, the special notation. We're going to talk about the arithmetic expansion with the way how can we handle the integer values here. Because it's going to be any integer value, okay? So let's take a look in the bash. There is half about how can you use the arithmetic expansion, which use in order to evaluate the arithmetic expression with integers in the bash. How can you do that? Let me jump here first to the slides, so it's going to be easy for us to go over this one here. So inside this one, you're going to use what? You use the $sign, then between 2 parentheses, write your arithmetic expression. So it looks like I'm going to test. I mean, in this case, what does that mean here? Whatever you have expression here can be translated in the integer value. So give me whatever the arithmetic expression that we're going to use here. In order to use the arithmetic expression here, we have different ways to do that, okay? We have different things. We can use, I mean, check, for example, or sign the value. As I mentioned here, I need to perform, I will ask the user to give me the value of A and B, and I want to say A plus B, okay? In order to perform that, I need to do this command similar to something like this here in this case. I can say, for example, the value of C is equal, for example, whatever the value of A plus the value of B, this is my arithmetic expression. Okay? In order to transfer this one into, evaluate this one and get an integer value, I need to put this one between 2 parentheses. And in order to access this value, I'm going to use a $sign. So it looks like assign this one, whatever the value here, going to be evaluated, come up with a value, and they need to access this value. This is the way how can you perform this one using the arithmetic expression. So I believe I will stop here, and the next lecture we're going to cover this one in more details, okay? The nice thing, next lecture, as I mentioned, is going to be in person, so it's going to be great because you're not going to waste time to exchange back and forth between the slides and the, yeah. Are you happy because you're going to be in person, or happy the class is over? Yeah? I believe that because the class is over. Okay, anyway, see you guys next week. Okay, bye.